4 words. That is all it took. 4 words from Kash Patel that became the rope he hanged himself with inside that congressional chamber. Important files come to my desk. He said it under oath. He said it with confidence. And he had no idea what those 4 words were about to cost him. Because sitting across from him was not another politician with prepared talking points. It was a former military prosecutor who had spent 2 decades interrogating war criminals, spies, and traitors. Someone who had been waiting for exactly those 4 words. Someone who knew precisely what to do with them. Watch this video until the end. Because what happened next was not a hearing. It was a military interrogation. And Kash Patel never saw it coming. If you are new here, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because what Ted Lieu did in that chamber today is something Congress has not seen in years. A former JAG officer used Patel's own sworn testimony to dismantle every defense he had, one phrase at a time. Here is what you need to understand before we get to the moment itself. Ted Lieu is not a typical congressman. Before politics, he served as a JAG officer in the United States Air Force, Judge Advocate General's Corps, a military lawyer who prosecuted war crimes cases, espionage trials, interrogated enemy combatants and double agents, people trained to resist questioning, people who lied for a living. And in those rooms, over 2 decades, Lieu learned something no law school teaches. Liars follow patterns, evasive answers, deflection, bureaucratic language designed to sound cooperative while revealing nothing. He has seen those patterns hundreds of times. Sitting across from FBI Director Kash Patel, he saw every single one of them again. The hearing had been running for hours. Other members had asked their questions. Patel had settled into a rhythm. He knew what was coming. He had rehearsed his responses. He looked prepared. That changed the moment Lieu took the microphone. Director Patel, Lieu began, his voice flat and controlled. I spent nearly 2 decades as a military lawyer. I prosecuted war crimes, espionage, betrayal of national trust. Before I ask my first question, I want to share a professional observation. The answers you have given this committee today follow behavioral patterns I have observed consistently in individuals who are concealing information. The same deflection techniques, the same careful word choices, the same posture of cooperation without substance. I've seen it before. I know what it looks like. Patel started to respond. Lieu raised one hand. I'm not asking a question yet, Director. My questions will follow shortly. And I want clear, direct answers. Not summaries, not bureaucratic language. Direct answers. The room understood what had just shifted. This was not a congressional hearing anymore. This was a military interrogation happening inside a committee chamber. Lieu's strategy was constructed with precision. He did not start with Epstein. That was expected. That was what Patel had prepared for. Instead, Lieu opened with routine procedural questions about how the FBI manages its most significant case files. Administrative, almost boring. Designed to lower Patel's guard completely before the trap closed. Director, walk me through how important investigation files are handled at the Bureau. Who reviews them initially? How does escalation work? At what point does material reach your desk directly? Patel answered with visible relief. Standard operational process. Each file is compiled at the field level. Cases of significance are escalated through the directorate. Important files come directly to my desk for personal review. Lieu nodded slowly. Important files come directly to your desk. You personally review them. Is that accurate? That is correct, Congressman. Then the pivot. Would you characterize the Jeffrey Epstein investigation as an important case? The hesitation lasted less than a second, but Lieu saw it. So did the cameras. The Epstein case is, of course, significant. So the complete Epstein file came directly to your desk. That's what you're telling this committee. Silence. Patel had built the trap himself and walked directly into it using his own words. He understood what had happened. The room understood what had happened. Some portions of the file, I reviewed materials relevant to my oversight responsibilities. Some portions. Lieu's voice carried something close to disbelief. You just told this committee under oath that important files come directly to your desk. You confirmed that the Epstein investigation is important. And now you're telling us you reviewed some portions. Which was it? Patel shifted. I couldn't personally review every document in a file of that size. Summaries were prepared for my office. Summaries. The FBI director received summaries of the largest child sex trafficking prosecution in American history. Not the witness testimony, not the primary documents. Summaries. That answer is now part of the congressional record. Lieu pressed further. Who wrote those summaries, Director? Who decided what to include and what to leave out? Because a summary is not a neutral document. A summary reflects editorial choices. Someone decided which names were worth mentioning. Someone decided which financial transactions were relevant. Someone decided what the director needed to see and, more importantly, what he did not need to see. So who made those decisions? Patel referenced his senior staff, career professionals, experienced analysts. Lieu nodded. Career professionals who reported directly to you, who served at your discretion, who understood what conclusions their director was and was not looking for. He let that sit. The room absorbed it. A summary tells you exactly as much as the person writing it wants you to know. Nothing more. The interrogation moved into its second phase. Lieu referenced an internal FBI review from January 2025. He stated that during that review, the Bureau's own analysts had identified a significant number of high-profile individuals whose names appeared in the Epstein files. He held up a document as he asked the question. Patel's expression shifted. This was territory he had not anticipated. The number of names identified in that review. The categories: politicians, business executives, media figures, legal professionals, foreign nationals. Lieu read from what he described as a preliminary draft assessment. And then he delivered the question that stopped the room. Director Patel, these figures come from your own agency's internal analysis, and yet your public testimony has consistently indicated that nothing of substantial investigative value exists in these files. How do those two things coexist? Patel's response fell back on process, draft reports, unfinished assessments, verification stages. Lieu listened without interrupting. Then he asked one question: how many names are in the final report? The silence that followed was complete. Patel looked ahead. It would not be appropriate to disclose that in this setting. Lieu paused deliberately. He's not saying he doesn't know. He's saying it's not appropriate to share, which means there is a number, and that number is either too large or contains names too significant to put on the public record. The third phase of the interrogation targeted resources. Lieu asked how many agents had been assigned to the Epstein investigation under Patel's leadership. The answer was approximately 10. Lieu let that number sit in the room for a moment before noting that the FBI deployed over 7,000 agents to the September 11th investigation and nearly 1,000 to the Oklahoma City bombing. 10 agents for what the director himself had called one of the most significant cases the Bureau handles. The disparity required no elaboration. And you reviewed summaries, not the full file. Lieu said simply, a 10-person team produced summaries, and you read those instead of the primary documents. Patel had no answer that would survive scrutiny. Lieu kept going. Director, what did that 10-person team actually produce? Not in summary form, concretely. Were witness interviews conducted? Patel said some were. How many? Patel referenced the file. Lieu asked again. A number. Give this committee a number. Patel said he could not provide exact figures without reviewing his records. Lieu looked at him for a long moment. You cannot tell this committee how many witnesses your agency interviewed in the most significant trafficking prosecution in the country's recent history. You don't have that number. Patel said the details were available in the formal record, which this committee has been requesting for months, Lieu replied, and which your office has repeatedly declined to produce in complete form. That is not transparency, Director. That is the appearance of transparency. There is a difference. One answers questions, the other generates more of them. Lieu then shifted to Epstein's death, the official FBI finding. Suicide. Lieu acknowledged the official position and then referenced the professional assessment of Dr. Michael Baden, New York's former chief medical examiner, a forensic pathologist with experience on over 20,000 cases. Dr. Baden testified publicly that the specific fracture patterns found on Epstein's body were far more consistent with homicidal strangulation than with suicidal hanging. The hyoid bone fractures, the thyroid cartilage damage. These injuries appear rarely in hanging deaths. They appear commonly in strangulation. Lieu asked whether the FBI had evaluated that assessment or simply added it to a file. Patel confirmed the official finding had not changed. Lieu laid out the surrounding circumstances methodically. Maximum security facility. High-profile prisoner, supposedly on suicide watch. The night of his death, 2 security cameras outside the cell both malfunctioned simultaneously. Both guards assigned to monitor him fall asleep during the same shift. The automated recording system produces no usable footage, and the physical evidence conflicts with the official conclusion, according to a former chief medical examiner. Director, do you consider all of these simultaneous failures to be coincidence? The investigation followed standard protocols, and the conclusion was based on available evidence. Every investigation is complete, Lieu said. The death investigation is complete. The client file review is complete. The high-profile names assessment is complete. Closed. Always closed. Never with results that reach the public. Never with accountability for anyone above a certain level. Does that pattern concern you at all, Director? For his final question, Lieu asked for a direct yes or no. He was clear about the format. 1 or 2 words. No qualifications. No process language. No lengthy explanations. Will all of the Epstein files currently held by the Department of Justice and the FBI be released to the public? Patel began invoking legal frameworks. Lieu interrupted. Yes or no, Director? Some materials will never be appropriate for public release. The room went quiet. Lieu did not move for a moment. Then he spoke. Finally, a direct answer. Never. Not in 10 years, not in 50. Never. So the question I leave with this committee and with everyone watching this hearing is the only question that actually matters. Why? Which names are protected by that word? Which individuals are significant enough that the American public will permanently be denied the right to know their connection to this case? No response came from the witness table. Lieu stood. More than 250 children were abused inside this trafficking network. Their families were destroyed. The people responsible included, according to your own agency's preliminary assessments, political figures, executives, and media personalities. And you are telling this committee under oath that some of that information will never reach the public. I was a military lawyer for the United States Air Force. I prosecuted individuals who believed their position would shield them from accountability. It did not shield them. And I will tell you from that experience that the behavioral patterns I have observed in this chamber today are not unfamiliar to me. History documents these moments, Director. Every evasion, every carefully chosen non-answer, every protected name is part of that record now. And that record does not close. By the time Lieu's questioning concluded, Patel had confirmed that important files reach his desk while admitting he reviewed only summaries of the Epstein material. He had acknowledged the existence of a preliminary assessment identifying high-profile names while declining to disclose the final count. He had defended a 10-agent investigation into a case he himself described as significant. He had acknowledged that various names appear in the files while insisting no prosecutable client list exists. And he had confirmed that certain materials would never be released to the public. Ted Lieu built that record one question at a time, not with rhetoric, not with political theater, with the same methodical approach he used for 2 decades in military courtrooms. Important files, come to my desk, Patel said it. And then spent the next hour explaining why he hadn't actually read them.